Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Rebel Ridge. This is the latest film for Jeremy Saulnier, who I've previously been a fan of from films like Blue Ruin and The Green Room. I did not see his third film, which I know people don't like it as much, but I still wish I had. This is part sort of a First Blood riff, part a horror movie starring the cops and the court of law in America. This is an interesting film, one that is very tightly directed by Jeremy Saulnier. Being able to see his career start with Blue Ruin and come to this, I've been able to see an arc of someone who started with making a really interesting kind of indie revenge film to making a very tight, well-directed thriller, reminding me of people like Walter Hill or John McTiernan, particularly in the economy of the storytelling, remind me of Walter Hill. But it feels very modern. I think a lot of its choices, a lot of how it's the main character of Terry deals with things, feels like more of a modern understanding mixed with sort of a kind of action movie premise. It's sort of, I think, there's a lot of theories about it that I will go into in this review, but I do think it is such a tightly constructed kind of thriller. We don't normally get them directed this well anymore. It felt like expertly executed and perfectly placed, and even if it is slow in some cases, it's like it's trying to make a point with that pace. It's not just like done for the thrill of the experience. It's the thrill of this situation they're in, that Terry is in, which almost anyone can be in, and feels an incredibly both unfair and insurmountable, an insane juggernaut of a system that feels impenetrable to get through as he tries to be able to save his cousin before what he knows is going to happen happens. Rebel Ridge is about Terry, who is riding his bike on his way to get his cousin out of jail. He has the bail money, but he is stopped by two police officers, and they steal his money under civil forfeiture, which is a real thing. I think it was one of the first John Oliver pieces a couple people have mentioned. I'm not sure about that. I'm fairly certain John Oliver did that, but it's basically when the cops steal, or sorry, they don't steal, they take into evidence the money or something that they believe is related to drugs or something like that, or part of an investigation. They take his money because they have the shred of evidence that it is drug money because his cousin was arrested for possession. Now Terry has to find a way to get his cousin out of jail or bond him out somehow, even though he doesn't have the money he has, while also fighting the cops who very much don't like him, as he is someone who is Marine trained, has to sort of figure out how to deal with them using his training in almost a First Blood way, but not to that gory same effect, trying to understand the system and why they're doing what they're doing to his cousin. This is very much like, Rambo First Blood, basically. The idea that you come to town, you're just passing through, you get fucked up by the police department, they sort of ruin your life, but you're, much like Rambo, you're a very well-trained kind of military guy, and you go on your revenge. What's different, and what sort of, I've seen some debate and reviews with this film, is that in Rambo and a lot of action movies, you just have a guy mowing down motherfuckers with a shotgun, and that's sort of that's where we're at, kind of like in the very John Wicky action time that we're in. However, I sort of there's been some debates on, the main character played by Aaron Pierre is black in a white town, and that takes on various connotations. I don't disagree with that necessarily. I think if you read that into the film, that's totally understandable, and most of the people I've read that from have been black critics. I understand if you say, we can't in America have a black man do that. I understand that, but I sort of think yes. Also, I mean, they're correct. If that's how you read the film, that's fine. But I agree with it to a point, in that I think the point of the film is how tough and insurmountable this law system is. It's almost like looking at how possibly you viewed with less of the internet and less understanding the laws at the time, that Rambo First Blood was sort of like what we as audiences accepted as this kind of movie then. Now this is sort of bringing it in a modern way, showing that it's so much harder with the private prisons and with all of the ins and outs of the law. And obviously the law has always been on the side of the cops. The famous phrase, like, you don't fight City Hall because it'll make everything in their favor. And basically the cops do that in this film. Like, they steal his money to get his cousin out. They make it so much harder, make him have to come up with various things. And to me, the cops have always felt like that, and law always feels like that. Like, if they're going to go against you, they're going to make it just impossible to get out of their web of nonsense. And that's the way it feels in this. I know there's a certain part where Don Johnson, who plays kind of the police chief, who's really good in this. I don't know if like anyone who's younger than me like even remembers him or knows of him of Miami Vice. He just plays like shitty racist dudes now, which is a weird way to remember him, but whatever. He's really good at it. So he but there's a part was like just because we were wrong doesn't mean you were right. And that's sort of how I feel about the American justice system. It's like I seriously doubt any of the cops in this would admit that what they're doing is fucked up or like not fair or like basically morally horrible. But they've gotten the laws and the morals to sort of bend to their whim. And if the society and the laws bend to their whim, then of course it is moral in a sense, or at least that's how they walk around and act like it is. Obviously it is not, and I think Rebel Ridge is fighting almost like all of the culture at the time for him to be able to like just get his cousin out, and there's various complications to that which I won't really get into, but I did feel like the way they even filmed the cop cars, it felt like they were like sharks or like murderous killers or something, like circling certain things and you didn't want them to see you and stuff. I thought Jeremy Saulnier did a great job of that. Maybe my relationship for police is different than you watching this. I grew up in Baltimore and moved to New York, which has the biggest police department. I think it's like an army basically. So like I've always been much more fearful of what they can do. They've always felt more like the evil enforcers of the ruling class or of the law working for it than they did any sense of protection really. Even when I've needed to use them, they've failed spectacularly. So I've just never really, I don't have a positive view of the police. I've seen them beat up my friends and stuff. So it's just not in my, and this is before all the recent stuff even, I'm never going to be the pro cop guy. I'm sorry. So like to me, like this always felt like anytime they do something to someone, they'd come up with like a new rule or like some stipulation or something to fuck with them. And that traffic stop to me felt like how the cops always are. They'll find some obscure fucking law from some bullshit thing and completely destroy you because they can, either legally or beat you up or like make fun of you or whichever. That is what they're capable of, and I've seen that, and I just have always believed that. So I do think it's like, yes, this is different from First Blood, but it's like sort of different in the modern sense because it does feel like a lot of this, the kind of even the industrialization of the police force or having, giving them kind of military grade equipment and stuff like that is more recent. Now, I'm not an encyclopedia of those sort of things, but it does feel like a different take on it. I do also like that it's not like, let's just mow a bunch of motherfuckers down with a shotgun, because we have a lot of those. And it's like constant. And like, I love the John Wick movies. I like violent stuff, but it's just like, we need something different. And this felt like something different, but it felt like something different had a purpose for doing that. It wasn't just like, well, they're all the John Wick thing. We got to go in the reverse. It's like the structure and the idea of the movie is that like they will find all these things and they will pick you apart and they will get the laws to work for you. And obviously, if you shot a cop, society and the law will not work for you anymore. So he cannot do that. So having them figure that out in a sense, I thought was actually really interesting. I noticed some people, honestly, it doesn't come stick out to me because it was so thrilling and it was so tight and it was so like there was so much going on. Like I still felt the suspense and the thrill of it. I didn't need to see somebody, a huge body count or something like that. I do think like maybe there's certain cases in this film where it rushes to conclusion a bit. I still very much enjoyed it. I thought like, Don Johnson, Aaron Pierre, this is like a star-making role. He is insanely excellent. Specifically, like he's this hugely jacked dude. And anytime I see like I'll say the Rock film Snitch, for example, but I've seen it. I can't think of another example, but that's the one that always sticks out to me. You can't have these like hugely buff dudes that could like kill 20 dudes or something, and they like don't do these huge action things. It feels almost unnatural in terms of how we view films and view that kind of physique. But like again, I didn't view him against type. Like he's so good at playing that way. He's a really commanding presence in this film. I really, really liked Aaron Pierre. I really want to see more stuff with him. Don Johnson is just like, I think he's underrated as a character actor. I've known him. I've been seeing his stuff like, I think he was in A Boy and His Dog and Miami Vice and all that. But like, he is very good at this kind of role. Anna Sophia Robb, I forgot about her, and she kind of comes in here and she's really great. I didn't really think anyone had a bad performance. The one, David Denman, who I think most people know as Roy from The Office, is really good as a cop. What has to happen in these things, something has to happen from within. But I often find with films like this that want to talk about something serious, they will jump to a conclusion. I'm like, how could this end? But like the law and how punishing it is sort of like just doesn't. It just like destroys you. That's like all it seems to do in the idea of justice, of some sense of justice, which makes by the end of it, does anyone even understand what that is? Like we just destroyed a bunch of people for the sake of it, I guess. But I think it would have made more sense to just like punishing and nobody makes it out in the law. Basically just like lets these shitty people continue. Maybe that's too pessimistic in a sense, but I still very much like this film. It's insane that Jeremy Saulnier wrote, directed, and actually edited this and produced, I guess. But he did a lot. He did so many hats, and it feels like so insanely tight. It does remind me of like some of the great masters of the 70s, 80s, and 90s of action and thrillers. Like it really, really does. I was very surprised by this, and it's like it's also cool to like follow a director and see them go from like this cool indie director to like a really great kind of bigger studio director kind of guy, and he's just like so good at that, and he feels like such a natural progression in the best sense of the word. It's really quite an astonishing film. I think this film will depend on your relationship with cops. If you really like them, then maybe not the movie for you. But if you're watching me, hi, how's it going? And you've been with me this long, I think you should have figured out I'm not like super into the police. So I think you'll quite enjoy it. I think Jeremy Saulnier is a great action thriller director. I think this film just shows you how it feels against the legal system. It feels instrumental. It feels like you're going to get nowhere. It feels like no one can break out of it. And the only thing is like acting like you could get any justice out of this thing, which I think that might be the most unrealistic thing. But the idea that it feels impenetrable is something I found myself. And I think I have yet to see a film that displays it in such a wonderful way that isn't them trying to do sort of wish fulfillment. I think the wish fulfillment would probably not to have to deal with any of this crap at all. But if you're going to have to deal with this crap, I think Aaron Pierre's character of Terry is the one to kind of navigate you through it. And even he is sick of this fucking bullshit. I thought it was a very wonderful, kind of tense thriller. Probably one of the better directed films of the year. I still think about it. I've been rewatching it to rethink about it because there's so much to sort of take in. It feels like a much more simple film, but there's so many complications, so many interesting things going on. It's probably one of the more smarter thrillers, talking about an actual issue, an actual thing, but also talking about like how some of these small towns can just like destroy you for the sake of it, for their own like kind of cannibalistic survival, that they don't care who they destroy as long as they win. And I don't think there's a better kind of metaphor for America and the kind of people who would do this to someone and put their families through it, other than to show you that they have won again, and you question if it even matters to them if they win, or they just keep on winning while they sort of ruin everything in their path for the sake of continue to be the winners. So if you've seen Rebel Ridge and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.